So tonight's Legacy of Leaders subject or protagonist is Rachel Imenu. This is my favorite shiur maybe in the whole world. It means so much to me, this shiur, that I named my daughter after the shiur. Obviously I don't mean I named her after the shiur itself. I named her after the inspiration that I got from understanding who Rachel Imenu was. So, one of the most important things when a person is trying to analyze the Avot HaKedoshim, trying to analyze great tzaddikim of the past, the Imahot, but even tzaddikim of our generation, it's true, is the gift of context, understanding where things are in relation to the things around them. What came before this bit that you're looking at? What's going to come afterwards? What's the fullness of the story? And then you have an understanding of what something is. So I want to take a look at Rachel, but we're going to kind of skip around a little bit. Rachel's life, rewind, fast forward, and ultimately you'll get something, I feel, which is very powerful. The very first time we're introduced to Rachel, the Pasuk says, Vayishak Yaakov l'Rachel, Yaakov kissed Rachel, Vayisa et kolo vayevk. And he raised his voice and he wept. He cries. So of course, the first thing to note is that this moment of nishika, this kiss that Yaakov gave Rachel, the Sefarim tell us that of course this is not some act of physical passion, but rather something which Yaakov was experiencing a spiritual connection. And what's the proof that there was nothing untoward about this, that it wasn't coming from the wrong place, but from the right place? We have a rule generally which teaches that mitzvah goreret mitzvah, that the aftermath of a mitzvah is another mitzvah, and the aftermath of an avirah, of a sin, is another sin. In fact, this idea, if one was to turn it inside out, is a remarkable litmus test to understand a person's own deeds. If you did something and you're not sure if it was a good thing or a bad thing, say the Chachamim, look at what happened right afterwards. If the aftermath of that deed that you were unsure of is a mitzvah, you can be sure mitzvah goreret mitzvah, that the one that came before it was a mitzvah, and vice versa for averah, for something which is inappropriate. What is the result of Vayishak Yaakov l'Rachel, that Yaakov kissed Rachel? Vayevk, he raises his voice and he cries. Rashi, the commentator, explains that what Yaakov was crying about is quite an amazing thing. And one of the things I ask you to do, as we've done in many of the shiurim, is to attempt to get into what it is that the Torah is telling us. To be there in the story. Of course, we're not Yaakov Avinu. We're not Rachel Imenu. We don't think for a second that we understand or that we relate to them because they were giants, they were angels. But just to understand, what is the Torah sharing with us? And how is it sharing this idea with us? Yaakov just met Rachel. Why is he crying? First of all, imagine, first date, you sit down, and the boy starts literally weeping at the table. What is your gut reaction? We have some single girls here in the audience. What is your gut reaction? The guy starts crying on the first date. You run as fast as you can. But you know what? You figure to yourself, I'm going to give the guy a second chance. You know, maybe he's not just weird, right? So you say, oh gosh, this is so embarrassing. Why are you crying?
He saw that you wouldn't be buried with him.
So Rashi always, his job, what is Rashi's job supposed to be? To give you the simple pshat. His job is not to give you shiurim, his job is not to give you zohars, his job is to give you pshat. Rashi says it again and again. I've only come to explain the simple, straightforward meaning in the pasuk. So comes Rashi and he's trying to make this better. This first date where the guy is crying his eyes out. Again, just to understand, he's flip-flopping. First, 1 minute ago, Vayishak Yaakov l'Rachel, he starts crying. What's happening? Hear this. And tell me if Rashi made it better or worse. So you ask him, you're really embarrassed. Everyone in the restaurant is looking at this guy crying. They're thinking, what a terrible date you must be. Why are you crying? And Yaakov says, Lefi shetzafa beruach hakodesh, because Yaakov had seen with prophetic insight, she'ena nechneset imo lekvura, that she's not going to be buried with him. They literally just met. Did Rashi make it better or worse? It's strange, isn't it? So again, let's use the example. If the guy starts on the first day talking to you about how many kids he wants, you run. If he tells you, he starts asking you, where would you like to be buried? You run. If he starts crying about the fact that you might not be buried together, it's very strange. This is the whole thing that's happening here. So what is going on? But as we said earlier, this Vayishak Yaakov Rachel, what's the immediate after that? However strange it may be, Rashi says, Tzafa Ruach HaKodesh. So the aftermath of that deed was that he had prophecy. It must have been that the deed that preceded the prophecy was something of a highly spiritual nature. So I want to break this down together with you. And I want to point out something about this relationship between Yaakov and Rachel, which is fascinating to behold. We're going to skip a little while into the story of Rachel and Leah. Most of us are familiar with the story. And the pasuk says, "Vatomer Rachel el Leah." Rachel says to Leah, her son had just brought her these flowers, these dudaim, these jasmine flowers. Please, tenan ali midudaim b'nei, give me these flowers that your son just brought home. Vatomer la, and Leah says, in what is the ultimate "oh no you didn't" moment in the Torah, Vatomer la, and she says to her, Hame'at kachtech et ishti, is it not enough that you took my wife, my husband? V'lakacht gam et dudaeh b'ni, you're going to take also the flowers that my son brought me home? Vatomer Rachel. Rachel doesn't answer her back. Are you kidding me? Rachel says, Lachen yishkav imcha alayla. Yaakov, he had 4 wives. He had different time with each one of them. So was this supposed to be? Yaakov was supposed to spend time with Rachel. Rachel says, tonight he'll come to your tent, but give me the flowers. Vayavo Yaakov min hasadeh, vatetze Leah. Leah goes out and she says, Vatomer Elai. She says, Elai tavo kam kisachor secharticha b'dudae b'ni. I've bought you for these flowers. On this strange story, again we turn to Rashi for some sense in this narrative. And Rashi says, why? What was the result of this? This is the story we began with. And because she had been mizalzel, she was mivazeh, she ruined, she gave little worth to being together with the Sadiq. Lo zachta li kaver imo. She did not merit to be buried with him forever. So Rachel says, give me the dudaim, and you can. The result of that is she loses the zechut. She's punished. She gets the merit to be buried. She loses the merit to be buried with Yaakov Avinu. Now we go back to the beginning and we see, now we know. Why was Yaakov crying? Because she wouldn't be buried. Why wasn't she buried? Because she was punished. But there's an obvious problem here. One needs to understand what is going on with Rachel, that she's trading Yaakov for flowers. I understand the punishment, but why is she doing this? What is going on here? And I want to add some fuel to the fire. What is she trading for? The Rabbeinu Bachye says, "Vayimatzeh dudaim basadeh." Why does Rachel want these flowers? Dudaim kitzurat ben adam. The shape of this flower called the dudaim, it grows in the form of a human being. Yesh lahem dimut rosh v'yadayim. The way it grows, it looks like it has a head and arms. V'hu hamo'il leherayon. And it had properties that allowed someone to become fertile, to become pregnant. Rachel, what is she trading for? She's trading to have children. How could you punish her for that? Was she not supposed to do this? Aren't we supposed to make every ishtadlut, every attempt that we can to do, to correct, to go to doctors, to try and make a living? We sit like this and say, Hashem will make me better? Hashem will pay the rent? So the answer is magnificent. And yet, at the same time, it can only be understood if we ask one more challenging question. And suddenly Rachel opens up like a flower, opens up like the dudaim that she traded for. Rashi seems to be telling us that the reason why Rachel is not buried with Yaakov is because she's being punished. Why? Because she doesn't give the appropriate worth to being together with the Sadiq. Oh, you thought it wasn't a big deal to be with Yaakov? Fine. So forevermore you will not be together with him. However, when Yaakov is on his deathbed, he calls Yosef close to him and he says, I have one thing to say to you that I've not said to all the other brothers. I've given them their berachot, but you, I need to tell you something. When I was leaving Eretz Israel, when I was traveling, wasn't leaving Eretz Israel, when I was traveling, Meta alai Rachel, Rachel, your mother died on the road. Ve'ekbera sham, and I buried her there where she died. Ve'lo holachtia, Rashi says, afil lebet lechem lachnis al haaretz. She died on the road, literally. I didn't even detour from the road to go into the city to bury her in the populated area. Kever Rachel was literally at the roadside. It was like a gas station. V'yadati, and he says, and I know, my dear son Yosef, sheyesh bilibcha alai tarumot, that you, in your heart, you were upset at me. Because I'm asking you from Egypt to pick up my body when I die and bury me in Israel, because you are the one that has the power. And yet when your mother died on the road, I didn't even bring her, never mind, to the Ma'arat HaMachpelah. I didn't even bring her into the area of the habitated area of the city. Aval dalecha, but you need to know, he says. She'al pi hadibur kibarti Hashem. I buried Rachel Imenu on the side of the road, al pi hadibur, because God himself decreed so. That she should be a help to her children. In the time of the Galut, when the Jewish people would be led in chains out of Jerusalem, they would pass by on the road, they would pass by this grave of Rachel Imenu. Yotzet Rachel al kivra, Rachel comes out on her grave, ubocha, and she cries, umivakeshet alehem rahamim, and she begs for them for mercy. As it says, kol b'rama nishma, a voice is heard on high. Rachel mivakah baneh, Rachel cries for her sons. V'hakadosh baruch hu misheva, and Hashem answers her, yesachar lefulatech, for all that you did, there is reward, there is payback. V'shavu banim legvulam. And these sons of yours and daughters of yours that are marching off into exile will once again return in your merit. I have a problem here. Number one, why is Rachel punished? Because she trades for children. Isn't that the smart thing? Isn't that the obligation that she has? Question number two, is that even a mitzvah? Question number two, Rashi elsewhere seems to contradict himself. Because if you're telling me here it's the reason why she's buried there and not Ma'arat HaMachpelah is because of a punishment, how come Rashi later on tells us that the reason why she's buried on the side of the road is not because of a punishment? She's buried on the side of the road because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted her there for the sake of the Jewish people that would pass by and pray as they passed her kever, and Rachel Imenu could come up, so to speak. Because we know that the soul of a person is associated with the place that they are buried. It's the last spot, the resting place of the vehicle for the soul that spent all of its time in that vehicle while it was here. Rachel will come and pray for her children, for the Jewish people. Which one is it? Is she being punished? Or is it a nevuah? Is Yaakov just lying to Yosef on his deathbed in order to get Yosef to take him up to Israel? The answer to all of these questions is linked. We have to understand that Rachel Imenu. She makes a choice when Leah's son comes home with the Dudaim. She chooses a mitzvah, the mitzvah of having children. But she chooses that mitzvah over another. You know, the Mishnah says that a bad neighbor is a very bad influence. Right? We talk about a shachen ra, a bad neighbor. We talk also about sticking with the right people. Your house should be a gathering place for the righteous, says the Mishnah in Avot. So this idea of connecting, of being mitdabek, connecting with tzaddikim, with the righteous people. What is the mitzvah in connecting to someone who's righteous? It's that the influence of that person rubs off. That you elevate your spiritual character. You raise your sights because you know and you see in them a possible better version of yourself. Rachel has a choice. She could be with the tzaddik and raise her spirituality. She could grow as a person. She could have an elevation of ruhaniyut. But Rachel understands that on the other side of that scale is the possibility of building Am Yisrael. She chooses the spirituality of Am Yisrael, of building the people. She chooses her nation over and above herself. When Rashi says that she's not buried with Yaakov, therefore, Lefi shezilzela, it sounds like Rashi is saying that she belittled it, and therefore she's being punished, but she's not being punished at all. The root of the word mizalzel is a double root of the word zol. Zol means cheap. Lefi shezilzela means that she did not consider being with the tzaddik as valuable as the other choice that she had made, which was to be able to give birth to Yosef HaSadiq, to be able to give birth to a Binyamin. She chooses Am Yisrael. So what does God say to Yaakov Avinu? If this is a person who in their lifetime, they chose the Jewish people over themselves, over their own spiritual greatness, over their own benefit, then in death I will allow Rachel Imenu to live on in the choice that she made when she had that choice. And given the opportunity to be buried in Marat HaMachpelah, which is a tremendous honor. And she's being buried, Yaakov Avinu, fantastic. But Rachel, for her, she hears the call of her great-grandchildren who need their mother, who are going to pass by as they go to Galut and need to be saved. And Rachel, in death, enacts what she was in life. So both what Yaakov Avinu says and what the earlier Rashi quotes are exactly the same. We begin to understand now why Yaakov Avinu was crying and why the first thing, Vayishak Yaakov l'Rachel, it was an expression of great affection, spiritual no doubt, but it was an expression of great affection, of connection. In fact, when you have two different pools of water in the mikveh and they're connected, what's it called? Hashaka. They are connected. Vayishak Yaakov l'Rachel. He knew that this was going to be his primary connection. And then he sees that she's not buried with him. And he immediately understands that the reason why she isn't buried with him is because there is something that she will value in her life more than her connection with him. Vayishak, Vayevk. But this is Rachel Imenu. When we look to our Avot, we understand that we possess a strand of their DNA, however light it may be. We understand that perhaps if someone in our family had red hair, then our children or grandchildren might have red hair, blue eyes or brown eyes, whatever it may be. And we see these anomalies come up in our children. We know that that comes from an ancestor. And if chesed comes from Abraham and givurah comes from Yitzchak, the ability to give up everything, your all for your people, this ability that is implanted in every Jew comes from Imenu, from our great-great-grandmother, Rachel. And it's not the first time. It's not one great act in a blaze of glory. It's easy to do great deeds of sacrifice. You find a lot of people who are willing to be martyrs. Oh, for the tzedakah, yeah, I have to stay up all night to make the dinner. I'm in. Lots of people do that. Who does the small deed every day? Rachel Imenu doesn't do this one time. We find an exact parallel to this concept. Rachel's initial chance to be with Yaakov Avinu when she was supposed to marry him. And the pasuk says, "Vayihi baboker," and it was in the morning, "V'hinei le'ah," and behold. The word "v'hinei" means it's a surprise. V'hinei, behold, it was Leah. Says Rashi, "Aval balayla," because at night, when he thought he was marrying Rachel, lo hayta Leah. It wasn't Leah, he was marrying Rachel. Lefi shemasar Yaakov leRachel simanim. He gave his wife Rachel simanim. He knew his father-in-law was a trickster. So they made a special sign between them, different opinions as to what it was. Each one of them with varying degrees of intensity of Misirut Nefesh. One understanding is that the siman that Yaakov gave to Rachel was he taught her how to be a Jewish woman, the laws of family purity, the laws of chala, the laws of hadlakat haner, the mitzvot that belong to the Jewish woman. Why did Leah say, "Is it not enough you take my husband?" Because she had no idea that the simanim that Rachel gave her, she didn't even know that she'd been given simanim. She thought she was having a chavrusa with Rachel Imenu, learning the laws. A second opinion says that he gave Rachel a siman, the sound of a voice, and Rachel was there. She hid in the locale, in the room, so that when Yaakov would speak to his wife in the darkness, in the space of their room, she could answer Yaakov. How deep is this power? And how does Rachel get it? And listen to what she says. Ukishira'ata Rachel. And when Rachel understands, shemachnisim lo le'ah. Amra, she says, Achshav tichalem achoti. My sister should be humiliated in front of all of our friends, in front of all of our family, in front of the entire village. Amda umasra la'otan simanim. She knew what it was to be with Yaakov. But at what price? Who should suffer for me to grow? Who should suffer so that I should have ruchaniyut? Rachel couldn't bear it. She gives a simanim. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand something here. We look at this and we think it means that Rachel gave up the first wedding. No. The Malbim says that when Rachel gave up her right to Yaakov, she thought she was giving him up forever. Because the halacha would state in a normal circumstance that one man is not allowed to marry two people who are sisters. Once he was married to Leah, he couldn't marry Rachel. How does he wind up marrying Rachel after he marries Leah? The Malbim says that before Matan Torah, before the Torah was given, the Avot were able to intuit the mitzvot. They didn't have a book. There wasn't a Tanakh. But they knew the mitzvot inside out because they were able, their connection with the world was able to feel what does the world need for its tikkun. When Yaakov married Rachel, he had a nivuah, he had an ability to sense that the world needed the 12 Shivatim. It needed this Jewish people. And therefore, for the sake of building the Jewish people, he was allowed to marry Rachel. But Rachel didn't have any way of knowing that. She gave it with an open heart, ready for the consequences, because although it's my whole life, how could my life come at the expense of someone else? Someone's humiliation. Now I want to show you how beautiful this is, how bittersweet, how powerful, how empowering this is. The pasuk tells us, "Vayihi betzet nafsha," as Rachel is dying, she's passing away, kimeta. But tikra shemo, she calls her son Ben Oni, the son of my suffering. Ve'aviv karalo Binyamin, and the father called him Binyamin. Strange. Only child that the father names him, by the way. All the other ones are named by the mothers. And here is the one child that his wife names the baby with her dying words, and Yaakov changes the name? What is that? But more than that, ladies and gentlemen, what does it mean by Yehi betzet nafsha kimeta? And it was as she was dying. Kimeta vatikrashimo, she calls this baby that's coming out Binyamin. She doesn't happen to die when the baby's born. What do we just say from the Malbim? Why was he allowed to marry Rachel after he'd married Leah? The whole reason why he could be with Rachel and Leah simultaneously is because of the great mission of bringing the Shvatim in the world. Binyamin was number 12. As Binyamin comes into the world, Rachel must leave it. Vayehi betzet nafsha kimeta. Why? Because she just had this son, Vatikra Shemo. She names this child about the story she's experiencing, the son of my suffering. It's her choice. But how difficult a choice it is to give up Yaakov Avinu. Now do you understand what Rachel is telling Yaakov? Vatomer el Yaakov. She says to Yaakov, Hava li banim, give me sons. Ve'im ayin. Because if you can't, meta anochi. This comment wasn't a flippant comment. If I can't have kids, I may as well die. She wasn't saying I'm going to be so bitter, I'm going to pass away from the upset. What she was saying is, my whole right to be here is because I can have children with you. Because I can build the Shevatim. Hava li banim, give me sons. V'im ayin, because if you don't meta anochi, I gotta go. Ve'aviv. But the father, Yaakov Avinu, who's just lost the love of his life, who's just lost his eternal partner, who just lost his Vayash Yaakov Rachel. He looks at this son in his arms. And he calls this son not the son of my suffering, but Ben Yemin, the son of my strength. Because he knew what had been planted in Am Yisrael because of Rachel's great actions. This is Rachel Imenu. It's the reason why we experience great self-sacrifice in Am Yisrael. But ladies and gentlemen, it's also the reason why we can expect more from ourselves than we think we have to give. It's there. You just don't know it. If someone told you, forget the impossibilities, but they came and they whispered in your ear that your father is the tremendous Olympian, Usain Bolt, do you think you'd ever run the same? Fastest human alive. If someone told you that your father was Michael Phelps, who broke every record in the swimming pool, do you think you'd ever swim the same? You'd be looking for something inside of yourself that you knew must have been passed on. And if it wasn't, you'd ask, what's going on? Am I not eating right? Am I not breathing right? Maybe I need a new trainer. You'd expect from yourself something so much deeper, so much more powerful. Well, this is who your great-grandmother is. Yaakov understands that this doesn't come from suffering or weakness. This came from Yamin, from strength. We find a powerful parallel to this in Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, he wants so badly to get into Eretz Israel. And yet the pasuk says in Devarim, Vayikbor oto bagay, and they buried him in the valley, Be'eretz Moab, in the land of Moab, Mul Bet Peor, opposite Bet Peor. The question everybody asks, Rashi says, he's asking this question. It's a strange thing to say. Bet Peor was a terrible place. First of all, it was Avodah Zarah. Second of all, it involved tremendous immorality and adultery. Is that how you would give directions? Could you imagine? Where is this certain tzaddik buried? Oh, go to the brothel and make a left. What are you saying? Where did they bury Moshe? Mul Bet Peor. Find another marker. The Midrash echoes in the Zohar as well, where it's trying to say Mul Bet Peor. It means that every single year, on the anniversary of the day of the sin that the Jewish people sinned with Bet Peor, with Baal Peor, rises up the spirits of impurity to come and to argue the case for the destruction of the Jewish people. And Moshe is buried opposite that exact place, so that when those spirits come, Moshe rises again like the shepherd, the Roeh Ne'eman that he was, and he defends Am Yisrael in the heavenly court. Why do we bury Moshe there? Because he needs to be buried there for the Jewish people. And I want to show you the most beautiful midrash, and with that I'll wrap up and hopefully expand this with, I think, a challenge. When Moshe finds out the Jewish people are about to be wiped out in the story of the Egel, he says to Hashem, Ve'ata, and now imtisahatatam, if you can forgive them, fine. Ve'im ayin, but if not, meheni na mesivrecha shekatafta. Erase me from your book. Meheni na. Please erase me. Take me. Take my neshama. Take my body. Take my merits. Wipe me clean. Empty the bank account. But save the Jews. At the end of his life, Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Va'etchanan," and I begged Hashem on that day, "Eberana, please let me cross." And I want to read you a midrash, which is, it takes your breath away. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says to Moshe, "En ata yodea ma la'asot?" You don't know what to do. You seem confused. You're trying to hold the rope from both ends. Amalei, Hashem says to Moshe, your choice. Im eberana, if you want to cross over into Israel, let me cross, please. Ata mevakesh, if that's what you want to achieve. Batel selachna, return, take back your earlier request from me of please forgive, of mechenina. V'im silachna, and if you want to forgive the Jewish people, mechenina, if that's what you want, batel eberana, cancel your other request of allow me to cross. It's either one or the other. Who's it about? Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Hear this. Hear this with your hearts and with your neshamot. Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Kivan sheshama Moshe Rabbeinu kach. When Moshe Rabbeinu heard those words, Amar lefanav, he said in front of God, Ribono shel olam, master of the entire universe. Yamut Moshe u'me'a ki yotzebo. Moshe and 100 like him should die. V'lo tinazek tziporno shel echad mehem, and they should not come even damage. Not a Jew should even break a nail. Lo tinazek tziporno shel echad mehem. Where does Moshe Rabbeinu get this from? Benyamin, son of my strength, this power that we have to cancel out all the laws of nature. Our natures make us into selfish human beings. The code of every living thing on this planet, including down to cells, is the idea of self-preservation. How do we go against our genetic code? And the answer is because we have another line in that genetic code that allows us to write over the line of self-preservation and to think of somebody else even before we think of ourselves. Our generation is a generation of iPods and iPhones and everything. But we have within us the ability to cancel that out. We are a generation that takes selfies because we are at the center of the universe. It used to be that you took pictures of beautiful scenery of your family, but now nothing else needs to be in the picture except for me. I am the focus. There is enough that is interesting about just me to take up all of the 900 selfies that you could find on my social media account. I am that interesting. I am that important. Rachel Imenu begs of us, she whispers to us that this is not our way. We flip the lens of the camera from the selfie to the outward focus. We look around us and ask, what about the people next to me? You know, in our generation, there's lots of people that think that the only way to be able to survive is to close the walls around you, to close rank, and make sure that you can have this space of absolute purity. And everyone that is outside of the walls, let them be damned. Because we've protected our kids. I don't know that that's the Jewish way. Of course, we have to have purity. We have to have sanctity in our homes. But the difference between Noach and Moshe is that when Noach floats on the waters of the Teva, of the Mabul, we read that he exits, he gets saved in a Teva, and the Teva is covered mibayit umichutz, from inside and from outside, with kofer, with water resistance, with a sealant from the inside out and from the outside in. And Noach is castigated. He's chastised for being a person that saved his own family, but said everybody else could die because they weren't good enough to be able to survive. But Moshe, who the Zohar says is a Gilgul of Noach, he's also saved in a Teva. Even the woman who saves him, her name is the same letters as Teva, Batya. But what is different between Moshe Rabbeinu, who gives everything for the other, even his very self, his very spirituality, is that Moshe's Teva, if you look, the pitch on the Teva was only on the outside of the Teva. It protected him from the water seeping in, but it did not stop him from emanating outwards. We have a responsibility to our families, true. But that does not end our responsibilities. We have responsibilities to our community. Chazal tell us that our responsibility is not even only to the Jewish people. We're meant to be Or Lagoyim, and good, yes, we have to take care of ourselves and fix our own problems before we fix everybody else. But to make the idea of isolationism be the ideal, that's crazy. Bishvili nivra ha'olam, the world was created for me to do something for it. In my path, in the way that I walk, the way of the Torah is meant to spread, to achieve, to give life and love and light to a world which is so dark. And yeah, sometimes it costs a little. But we learn from Rachel Imenu, who is the ultimate bringer of Geulah. Vishavu banim ligvulam. She's the one that ends Galut, because Galut is because of Sinat Chinam, and Sinat Chinam quite often comes because of this. That guy's not from enough. The ideas that they have, the thing that they are, the type of people, they're ridiculous. We're supposed to hate them. When you walk sometimes and you hear kids in Eretz Yisrael shouting at the cars that are going by, not just Shabbat, Shkotzim, Goyim, that's what Hashem wants. In the name of protecting yourself, you've corrupted yourself. Rachel Imenu is the one, Vishavu banim legvulam. Because when you can think, even at the expense of something even if it means that is your spirituality. If we think in that way, we'll be zocheh be'ezrat Hashem to redemption. We will not do mitzvot at the expense of another. You don't double park to catch a minion and lock somebody else in. You don't worry only about yourself and your own children, because if we're okay, everybody else could go die. And through that process, be'ezrat Hashem will be zocheh to be amongst the people that bring Mashiach. I heard a great line, I'm going to end with this, that was said at the Kinnis of the Lubavitch Shluchim. When Mashiach will come, and Mashiach will ask each and every one of us, are you waiting for us? How many of us are going to be able to tell Mashiach, waiting for you? I'm the one that brought you. This is the power that we have through our actions, through our selflessness, to be able to be for Dorei Dorot, the ones that will be Vishavu Banim Levulam.